graduate soon. You graduate soon. Realize all your potential. You just hidden. Before you graduate soon. I'm way down with no bucket around to let off the water that I've been taking on. And I may drown in this if I cannot find a way to get off the love that I've been held.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adela Caceres, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's virtual vigil hosted by the YWCA of Union County. I'm the director of the Union County Family Justice Center, and I will be leading tonight's program along with my colleague at the YWCA, Alejandra Londono, the director of the PALS Children's Program. Every year, the YWCA of Union County holds events in the community during the month of October in observance of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As the lead agency in the county serving survivors of domestic violence and their children, our goal is to educate the community through awareness events that shine the light on the topic of domestic violence and how it not only impacts the survivor, but their family, their friends, and the community at large. Tonight's program is designed with the same purpose. Tonight, we will feature performances from local actors depicting real stories of survivors. We will also feature individual stories of women who lost their lives due to domestic violence. And we will close out tonight's program with a moment of silence and a virtual candle lighting. Tonight's content is sensitive and may bring up strong emotions for you, our viewers. So if at any point you need to step away and/or you would like to speak to someone, our staff at our 24-hour hotline is available to support you. Please call 908-355-HELP. That's 4357. That number will appear on each slide presented as the program goes on. Up next, you will see a clip of a performance from our 2017 program, Next Chapter, that is a depiction of true stories of survivors who shared their stories with us as a way to heal, but also so that perhaps one day their stories could be a source of healing and hope for someone else.
We wake up every day. We get ready, go to school, come back, sleep. We do the same routine, nonstop. We wake up, go to school, sleep, repeat. Wake up, school, sleep, repeat. We are trapped in our own little world with our own little problems, with our own little demands. We don't notice people walking. We don't notice people waking up. We don't notice people in our life. We don't notice the green grass beneath our feet. We don't notice the warm house we sleep in. We don't even notice the fresh air. We don't notice we're so worried about what people think. Or we're so worried about our own demands. Listen, eating versus being alive. But what if we stopped just for a second? Look around at what you have and what you see. You see that people aren't as different as we think. Sure, we're all unique, but we're also all trapped in our own, doing the same routine over and over again. You will see the man rushing to catch the bus. You would see the little girl picking flowers. You would see the hardworking moms and the hardworking dads. You might even see the little boy walking his dog. You'll see people laughing, crying, fighting, giggling, and talking. You'll see families affected by domestic violence. You would see people fighting their own little demons. You're not alone. You'll never be alone. You just have to stop and notice. All families go through tough times. Fast forward 2 years and we had a daughter. And we should be more together as a family, but the roller coaster ride just continued for a while longer. And finally, we settled down. And we make a home. The children, they're thriving, and I'm working things. See, and I have been for a few years, except that, well, I always had to take time off. He wanted me to take days off to stay home with the children. He said that they were young and I had to pick them up from school. So the bills kept piling up, and Oh, babe, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And where was that Martin going anyway? Just more excuses, lies, lies, lies. So finally, we move out of state, far away from my family. You know, time for a change, a new leaf, more like a new female interest. And how many had there been before? Was I really that much in denial that I refused to see? Love really is blind, deaf, and dumb. No, I saw. I saw what I wanted to see, and I heard what I wanted to hear, and I lived in denial. Fast forward a couple of years, and now we're back in state. We had to deal with another family crisis, and only 3 years later, the crisis is over, but he is not the same. He became angrier and angrier for some reason. There was just no joking with him. And he came in angry, and he went to bed angry, and he woke up angry. And the children are older now, so they understand that something is wrong. I knew something was wrong. But what? I could not put my finger on the pulse of it. And I just kept telling myself to try to be more caring, try to be more understanding, try to let him know that I'm there for him no matter what. One day, he shouted at me, "You're a fucking idiot!" Those were the words that he shouted at me in front of my children in a group of strangers in a mall. I had never been more embarrassed than at that moment. And I felt those tears just welling up inside of me. But I did not cry in front of my children because, after all, mom is supposed to be strong no matter what. So I just swallowed hard and held my head high. Later on, he apologized to me and the children. But I was already hurting on the inside. And I just kept telling myself that everything was going to be okay. He was just having a bad day. But so many more to come. Wow, what was going on in my life? I mean, as we get older, aren't things supposed to get better? But for me, they just kept getting worse. I mean, where was this kind, this gentle, this protective man that I had met so many years ago? Who the heck was the monster that I was now living with? What I didn't know was that that monster would turn into a beast who wanted to beat and fight me like a man. There was no denial. I had nothing. I had no freedom. I had no job. I had no money. Barely any friends left. And my family was far away. I was trapped like a caged animal. And when he slammed me up against the wall, I had to fight myself out of the prison. And that was mine. Enough is enough. So I became vigilant. And I stopped reacting to his moods, and I started paying attention to his habits. called around to some shelters, and I told my children that we were leaving. Surprisingly, they were happy. Well, they had endured enough heartache, enough broken promises, enough intimidation and isolation. It was enough already. So I packed my bags. And when I walked through the shelter of the YWCA in Union County, we took back our lives. Still ring in my head. Why were you so mean? Was it the alcohol? Why were you so mean to me and Mom? Why did you yell at her? Why did you say I wasn't your daughter? Why? These cruel words still remain in my head. The yelling, the smell of the alcohol. I understand what you did wasn't right. I understand that you're not a nice person. What I don't understand is why. You hurt me like no one else ever has. Even if it wasn't intentional, you still made me feel pain. It hurt. Every single time. Every single thing hurt me. It's all in the past now. And maybe one day you'll realize it. And maybe I'll move on. But the answer to my question is why? I may never get an answer. The question may go unanswered. But I ask, why? I sit here in this room looking at our children play from the window. I remember the first day I stopped covering up the truth. The first night, I didn't have the strength to put them to bed. I was so weak. I could not convince their little eyes to rest and not wait. I remember walking over to our bed, bent over, unable to stand. I cried as I lay there. Me and the baby crying together. The children broke day that night. I called you about half a dozen times. I wasn't important, so you didn't answer. As the sun crept in and finally closed their tired eyes, got up, and put on their blankets as the tears ran down my eyes. As I laid down once again, I heard the door open as you walked inside, kissing them on their little heads, saying, "Daddy loves you." Then to the bathroom, then to our bed. I dare not cry or shed a tear. Drunk body on top of mine, fucking me as our baby was killing me inside. Telling me, stop making things up in my head as I smelled her all over you. So as you fell asleep, I picked up your phone and I read until it rang. I answered.
She was surprised, but not this time. I watched you rise, go to work, then come in later, dropping the children off so you could have your time alone with me. To fuck my mind, destroy my soul piece by piece, and take my body. The pain was becoming unbearable. You brought the children back the next day, leaving me in bed crying and bleeding. Oh, I held my stomach tight, talked to our baby, sang to her while I cried. You left the kids with me. You said you were going to work. I knew this wasn't true. I tried to get up and feed them, but my legs didn't work. So I crawled to the bathroom and screamed with labor pains, but no baby to deliver. Oh, I didn't want to let her go. So I waited. I called you again and again and again, and no answer. The eldest called the ambulance. Me and the children in that room together as they broke the news to me. The baby and I were dying. 12 weeks in my tube. Heart still beating. My kidney filled with blood. The clock was ticking, yet for you, I was still waiting. You finally arrived as I died. I heard her heartbeat. I knew. For the first time, I knew this love was no longer worth the sacrifice. As I looked in your eyes, the bumps, the bruises, the lies and excuses, the cheating, the degrading. No more walking on eggshells. The stress had once again claimed another one of our baby's lives, but it was different this time. I named her. I loved her. I needed her. They took her. The only scar on my body I have from a baby face I never saw. In that recovery room, I cried. In that room, all alone, the woman who loved you more than anything died. I began to look at you with new eyes. The day I left that hospital and came home, I watched you carefully every day. I once again began to write. I had to let it all go, and you, I no longer confided. In these pages I wrote with my pen, I found strength in admitting my weaknesses, admitting being degraded, taking pictures of my bruises before and after I covered them up, admitting to myself that I gave you the power to control, destroy, devour, to kill me from the inside out. 2 years later, I asked you one more question that I shall never forget. I asked, why have you never given me all of you? And you replied, because I never deserved it. Boy, did I cry. I never deserved you. For once, you told me the truth. You were right. I never deserved you. No one in this world deserves this kind of pain and chaos, this type of life. No one deserves their abuser. No, I didn't deserve the miscarriages, the forced abortions, the broken bones, the black eyes. No, I didn't deserve for you to control my whole entire life. You were right. I knew that you would try to destroy me and kill me if I left, but I knew that our children deserved my strength, my love, and my courage. I knew that this time I would leave and not come back. It wasn't easy. The stones you threw broke this glass house, but not my foundation. My beams were unmoved. I went all the way to jail trying to escape, but guess what I did? I did. I survived. I'm living with scars, but finally free to let them heal. And one day soon, I'll be far away from the state you took me to. Far away with our babies living a life of just good times, not able to add any more hospital papers to my collection. No more pictures, no more covering. Finally free to love every single blessed grain of me. Free to love without chaos. Thank you. Thank you. Those words set me entirely free at last. You never deserved it. Sentence over.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alejandra Landano. I am the director of the PALS Children's Program. Domestic violence is all around us. It is in our workplaces, our houses of worship, our neighborhoods, and in our homes. It impacts 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men. But we know that the numbers are likely higher given that many incidents go unreported for many valid reasons. It is also estimated that 3 million children are exposed to acts of aggression towards their parent each year, which means that these children are at an increased risk of becoming victims themselves or becoming abusive in the future. If the reality of these numbers is not enough, we can't dismiss the sad fact that a significant percentage of these acts of aggressions have resulted in homicides. Weapons are involved in 19% of domestic violence incidents, and specifically when there is a gun present in a domestic violence home.
Yes, so when there is a gun present in a domestic violence situation, it increases the risk of lethality or homicidality by 500%. Many victims have lost their lives due to the domestic violence they experienced, and that number continues to grow. Next, you will hear the stories of extraordinary women who no longer sit at their place at their family's table due to domestic violence homicides. Every year, the YWCA presents an exhibit called Empty Place at the Table during our awareness activity for all to read their stories. Each place at the table is representative of a victim who lost her or his life and whose family is missing a place at their table due to domestic violence. We would like to share a few of their stories with you tonight.
My name is Monica Paul, but my friends call me Q. I am 31 years old and am the mother of 2 beautiful children. I come from a large, close-knit family and have a whole host of friends who care for me dearly. I work diligently to provide for my kids and make sure that they are well-rounded individuals. My children are my pride and joy, and for them, I stayed with their father despite years of physical, mental, and emotional abuse. I wanted us to be a family so much that I stayed even when I knew I needed to leave. Even though in my heart I prayed their father would never kill me, I knew deep down inside that one day he would. So I left behind 2 letters for my children in case anything ever happened to me. I wanted to let them know that even though I'm not around, I want them to grow up to be strong, successful adults. I wanted to let them know I loved them and did the best I could as a mother. I wanted them to know that even in my darkest hours, I thought of them. They were my priority. I did all I could do to preserve my life. I filed police reports. I filed for restraining orders. I came to all court hearings. I even moved to get away from this man who continued to hurt me. But nothing I did helped me. None of the laws saved me. Unfortunately, the day I dreaded came. June 26, 2008, their father walked into the Montclair YMCA and shot me to death as I sat with my daughter watching my son take swimming lessons. He robbed me of everything I ever loved, my family, my friends, my joy to live, and most of all, my joy as a mother. Spiritually intense, can sting or charm, brings love and life, promoter of joy, bold, independent, inquisitive, and very intuitive. These are words that best describe me. I was born July 5th, 1972, but by August 30th of 2010, I will be killed by someone who promised to love, honor, and protect me. I migrated to the USA from the island of Jamaica at a very young age. I was educated in the New Jersey school system. It was during college that I met the person I thought was going to be the one I spent the rest of my life with. I had a son from a previous relationship and was accepting of the fact that this was not a problem for this man. Over the years, we lived together on and off, during which time I had 2 beautiful children, Amari and Cheyenne. Eventually, we got married, which is when I discovered his true qualities, abuser and controller, physically, verbally, and financially. Nothing I did was good enough unless he had the last say. After being cheated on, resulting in him having 2 more children by 2 different women, I decided I had enough. I took my 2 children and left for a better chance and a fresh start. I got a restraining order against my husband and started on the road to a new life. Even though I was going through hard times, I did my best to keep up my spirits and to make everyone around me happy. My family, especially my sister and my children, were the love of my life, and everything I did was to keep my little boy and girl safe and happy. Music, dancing, cooking, these were all things I loved. I wanted to continue my education, and so I enrolled in Union County College to finish college and start on the road to becoming a nurse, something I had always dreamed of. My first class was scheduled for the first week of September 2010. At the end of August 2010, after spending the day at my sister's home with my kids, I went to the YWCA to continue the support services I had been getting. When I got there, unknown to me, he was awaiting my arrival. He tried to force me into his vehicle, but I refused to go with him. By this time, my kids were out of the car and on the steps of the building. In front of them, he pulled out a gun and started to shoot me. All I could do was scream to my babies to run. Run away as fast as you can. I fell, but that did not stop him. He pulled out another gun and began blazing. 16 times I was hit. Bullets flew everywhere. I lay dying on the steps as he stepped over me like trash and walked away. It would take 5 years for him to pay the penalties for his actions, but he's now where he belongs, forever in prison. I'm now at peace. My babies are with my family who watch over them with the love and protection they truly deserve. They know I'm at peace finally. An angel. Stacy Ann Gillette. I've been a social studies teacher at a gifted and talented middle school in Elizabeth since graduating from Fairleigh Dickinson University. I'm passionate about teaching, love reading, and am also a skilled photographer. I loved photographing sunrises and sunsets, but my absolute favorite thing to photograph is my beautiful, silly, and fun children. While everything seems great from afar, I've been keeping a secret for years. I'm in a verbally and physically abusive relationship with my husband. But most people have no idea. I am always the life of the party, and I use my humor and wild jokes to cover up the pain I feel on the inside. I feel so alone, and all I truly want is to be loved. Years ago, after a particularly violent fight, I filed a restraining order and considered divorcing my husband. The years since have gotten worse and nothing has changed. One day, weeks prior to my death, I finally got the courage to tell my husband I wanted a divorce. He immediately tried to make our relationship work. He promised he would change and things would get better. Again, I found myself second guessing my decision of going through with a divorce. He was finally making an effort. He was the father of my children. We had a beautiful house together. But could I learn to trust him again? Should I give him yet another chance? I never was able to make that decision. He made it for me on December 27th, 2014. That night, he took my life, followed by his own, leaving my two beautiful children without the people that loved them the most. Just days after Christmas, I knew of this violent side, but I never feared for my life. I never thought it would come to this. How could this be? My friends and family will never truly know what happened that night, but we all know one thing. We know that two beautiful, adoring children lost both their parents that night, and that two families are left dealing with the immense grief and loss. Here's the ironic thing about wanting to be loved. I am loved by so many people. Friends, family, coworkers, students, and acquaintances waited in line for several hours to say their final goodbyes to me. There have been walks and runs organized in my honor to raise awareness of domestic violence. Since my death, loved ones have offered comforting words to my family, donated to my children's college fund, cooked for my family, helped with babysitting, and have been there to support my family in their time of need. I was never alone. I was always loved. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please seek help. You are not alone. You are loved. Love, Christine. My name is Rachel, but my friends and family call me Ray. My dad always called me Rusty on account of my reddish-brown hair color growing up, and my son called me Mommy. He was the light of my life. He would be 7 years old right now. I never got to see him turn 7. He has always loved trains, and I remember when he was little, we would get on, say, the F train and ride from Brooklyn to Queens and Manhattan and back again. He would smile and laugh and give me these big hugs, and it made me so happy. I'll never be able to do that again because last year, my husband took that away from me. Last November, he left me black and blue and bleeding in my head. I know I should have left, and I really wanted to leave, but I was sick with leukemia, and I had my son to think about. So I put up with his cheating, which he confessed to each time because he wanted to come clean. I put up with the name calling and verbal torture. I put up with having no money to travel to my doctor's appointments or to buy my own food. I put up with being kicked out of bed just because he felt like it. I put up with it all until last November when he left me black and blue and bleeding in my brain. I died that night from putting up, and now my son is alone, putting up with my hell. I am so sorry, baby. I didn't know. My name is Donna Van Klein Murray. I am 30 years old. I have 2 little girls, one from my ex-husband and one from my ex-boyfriend. I'm a good mother and a good person. I'm very hardworking. I've always had a job ever since I was 16 years old. I love my children very much. I love my mother, my sisters, and my brother very much. I would do anything for them and anyone else that I loved. I met the wrong man. He was very possessive and controlling after I became pregnant by him. I found out too late about him. He killed me after the baby was born and also tried to kill the baby. This has hurt my family very much. I got a restraining order against this man and did everything I could to make him leave me alone. Nothing worked. My mother is still going to grievance class. I never got the chance to see my girls grow up. Hello, my name is April. I am a mother, daughter, sister, aunt, niece, granddaughter, cousin, and friend. I grew up surrounded by my big loving family. I had my parents Dee and Hank, my younger sister Sheila, my baby brother Nick, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and a whole bunch of cousins. We had countless family gatherings for birthdays, holidays, and sometimes for no particular reason other than for all of us to be together. We banded together through good times and bad. That's what great families do. I was married to my high school sweetheart Jimmy for 20 years and had two beautiful children with him, JD and Ashley. I started a home daycare after my daughter was born so I could be home with my kids. I am so proud of the extraordinary adults JD and Ashley are growing up to be. After the kids were both in school full-time, I decided it was time for a career change. I began working at the corporate office of Bed Bath & Beyond as a temporary employee. I was determined to learn everything I needed to know to do my job well. I was quickly hired on as a permanent full-time employee and was promoted several times during my 10 years with them. I really enjoyed working there. I loved baking and actually made cakes that would rival some of the Cake Boss's cakes. I also enjoyed crafts and scrapbooking. Ever since I was a teenager, I loved fashion and doing my hair and makeup. I should have been a model. That's what people always told me anyway. In 2012, I was 42 and began dating a man, and everything was pretty good in the beginning. Then he slowly became controlling, began insulting me and isolating me from my family and friends. After about a year of dating him, I realized how unhealthy this relationship was, and I needed to end it. When I told him this, he attacked me. I thought he was going to kill me, but eventually I was able to get away from him and leave the house. I moved out, rented an apartment, and enjoyed settling into my new place. Over the next several months, he convinced me to give it another try. I didn't want to tell my family that we were back together, which should have been a huge red flag that this was a terrible idea. I thought he loved me enough to change, and he convinced me that it would never happen again. Well, it did happen again. A black eye here, a busted lip there, and the abuse continued. He systematically took control of every aspect of my life and isolated me from everyone that loved me. I had to take a medical leave of absence from work because he was physically and mentally breaking me. When he did let me communicate with my loved ones, he was right there listening. I hardly left the house or spoke to anyone besides him those last few weeks. Then in the evening hours of October 22nd, 2013, my abuser didn't stop with a black eye or a busted lip. The evil monster I once thought was a man murdered me, dismembered my body, put me in trash bags, and threw me away. Hundreds of law enforcement personnel searched on land and in the water for me. After days of searching several counties, they found some of the bags. They continued searching, but still, to this day, they have never found all of me. My devastated family and friends had to wait days for them to find some of me and weeks to actually have my funeral. My poor family. My family and friends have endured devastating pain and gut-wrenching heartbreak over my death. How do parents tell their other children that their sister is gone? How does a father tell his children that their mother is gone? How do a mother and father endure the agony of losing one of their children? How will my family survive this tremendous pain they are feeling? I should have stayed gone when I left the first time. If I had, I would still be here with my family and friends, and they wouldn't have to live with this unimaginable grief. I am immensely proud of my family and friends for working to help raise awareness about domestic violence. Earlier this year, they hosted a very successful fundraiser benefiting the Union County YWCA, where they raised a significant amount of money and collected many needed items for the shelter. They hope to make this fundraiser an annual event. They also adopted and redecorated a room in my honor at the shelter. I want my family and friends to know that I am watching over all of you from here in heaven, and that I love you all so very, very much. Until we meet again.
These women, along with all victims whom we have lost, led extraordinary lives. They were everyday people like you and me, who left behind children, families, friends, co-workers, and communities who have forever been changed. We must not forget their stories. and that is why we are here this evening, to honor their lives by breaking the silence that surrounds this issue, to involve all of you, our entire community, with the goal of working together to end domestic violence. We here at the YWCA of Union County are here for every person that may need the support and the services that we offer through our 24-hour hotline, our crisis response team, our emergency shelter and supportive housing, our counseling services, our court advocacy, workforce development, community education, our liaisons, and our Family Justice Center. Our goal is to build a community that unites together for support, for safety, for understanding, and for taking a stand against domestic violence. Tonight, through these stories, we also celebrate their courage, their resilience, their strength, and a hope for a better future for all. We also hope that you will leave this program with at least one new piece of information about this topic, and that you'll share it with your circle of families, friends, colleagues, and on social media. We also hope that you will leave with a more profound understanding that domestic violence is not a family problem, but it's a societal problem. And we can all do our part to end the violence. We can all agree that 2020 has been a year like no other. So during tonight's vigil, we would also like to take a moment to remember the lives we've lost this year because of COVID-19. We also want to recognize families who lost loved ones due to police brutality. And finally, we want to recognize the families and communities who lost loved ones due to domestic violence. We want you to know that we have you in our hearts. We are thinking of you daily in the work that we do to continue fighting to end violence, to bring love, to spread peace, and to encourage people to be kind to one another. So if we can take just a moment of silence to remember our loved ones that we've lost, and may their legacy continue for many, many years to come. May you be their vessel. May you be their voice today and every day forward. Let us take a moment of silence as we remember. If you have a candle at home and you would like to join us in lighting our candles in remembrance. As a reminder, our staff at our 24-hour hotline are available to anyone who may need support. You may call 908-355-HELP. That's 4357. Here on this slide are also some resources for grief counseling in the area. We thank you all for joining us and for your support. This concludes our first ever virtual vigil. Have a good night.